Hi, and welcome to this micro lesson. My name is Carissa. I'm an associate consultant with Solvera, and we are working on a project in collaboration with CDSS and the Refugee Programs Bureau to offer you these quick and practical lessons that you can take information from and incorporate into your daily work. Today's micro lesson is on self-care and community care. If you work with refugees and other ORR populations, as a caseworker, a program manager, volunteer, community partner, or interact in any way with them, this is a lesson that's designed for you. Before we could begin, I want to offer a quick note that this is not mental health advice or treatment. This is a conversation, an encouragement to reflect on what helps us stay grounded, connected, and human. The reality is, our work is both deeply meaningful and also emotionally heavy. We hear difficult stories, accompany people through major life transitions, and hold space for grief and fear and hope and resilience. Over time, that does take toll, no matter how strong, no matter how compassionate we are. So today, I want to talk about how we care for ourselves, how we can care for each other, and why both matter a lot. So let's start by naming something many of us feel. In helping professions, there's often an unspoken expectation to keep going no matter what. Researcher Lisa Chamberlain describes this as a dangerous stereotype, suggesting that to be a true defender, you must sacrifice all and work yourself to exhaustion. So, this belief shows up all the time. The pressure to push through, to be endlessly available, to absorb every crisis. But being human doesn't work like that. And sustainability definitely doesn't. So, this is why we're going to talk about self care and community care today, because no one can do this work alone. Self care is often presented as something commercialized or individualized. Yoga classes, bubble baths, apps, extra hydration, and all those things are great and all of those things can help, but they don't always get to maybe the heart of what self care really is. Self care is the moment you feel your shoulders tighten after a difficult conversation and you decide to take three intentional breaths instead of pushing through to the next thing. It's allowing yourself to rest without guilt. It's acknowledging when your emotional tank is empty. It's choosing boundaries that protect your ability to keep showing up. It's important to note as well that self care is culturally shaped. A peer-reviewed study found in Frontiers in Psychology saw that self-care is conceptualized differently across cultural groups, with collectivist cultures often emphasizing care through relationships and mutual support rather than individual practices. So this is crucial because many of the people we work with, our coworkers, clients, many of us come from cultures where well-being is not something practiced alone. It's something practiced together. Indigenous health scholars take this even further in a 2023 BMJ article that explains that Indigenous self care supports the collective well being of communities and the environment. So, even the word self care can maybe start to feel unfamiliar for people if cultures view well being as something shared and not just individualized for self. For many people, especially those who are socialized into caregiving roles, self care can bring up guilt. But guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, it means that you're human. So, that was a lot of information on self care. Let's take a moment to reflect. Take a breath. Let's think of one moment recently where maybe your body or your mind signaled to you that you needed a pause. If you could return to that moment, what is one small kindness that you could have shown to yourself that might have helped? Think about it and don't think about it as something that you wish you would have done and that is now you have shame about it. But thinking about it now can help you prepare for showing that kindness to yourself in the future. Take another breath. Now we're going to shift a little bit more into community care. So if self-care helps us return to ourselves, community care helps us return to each other. Community care isn't just a program, it's everyday gestures that make work feel doable. Maybe somebody checking in and saying, "Hey, I got this call. You could take some time to breathe." Or a coworker checking in after a tough intake, or food being shared in the office over conversation, team members stepping in for one another, a moment of humor that resets the room. Lisa Chamberlain describes this beautifully as collective care is self-care institutionalized. And this idea about community care isn't just philosophical, it's supported by global health research as well. The World Health Organization notes that supportive relationships in the workplace are among the strongest protective factors against stress and burnout. And the National Child Traumatic Stress Network reminds us that connection with supportive colleagues is one of the most effective buffers against secondary trauma. So, community care shouldn't be optional. It's a protective factor and one of the most powerful tools that we have. And again, it looks different across cultures. In some cultures, care can be expressed through food, in others through presence, and in others through silence or a small task or shared responsibility. No single expression is right or wrong. What matters is that intention, because we do not do this work alone. Since many of us are already a little bit familiar maybe with self-care, I want to spend a little bit more time diving into how can we actually cultivate community or collective care in the workplace. SAMHSA funded guidebook from the ATTC network puts it plainly. Individual self-care practices alone cannot counteract systemic stressors. A culture of collective care is necessary for sustained well-being. This means that wellness isn't only about what you do, it's about the environment that you are in. And a workplace culture is shaped by that, and it's shaped by in small everyday ways. Maybe it's a team agreeing not to schedule back-to-back emotionally heavy meetings, or rotating crisis cases so that no one carries all of the hardest situations, creating shared rituals like a grounding breath before every meeting, offering help before somebody asks, saying, "I'm logging off," and honoring it. If your teammates can also do that with you, think about how much you can feel cared for in that kind of environment. It can also look like celebrating small wins, big wins, just celebrating the wins, making room for humor and humanity. And sometimes that care can be environmental, like a quiet room, a relaxed lunch break, or small gestures of comfort. I've even heard of some teams thinking of incredibly creative ways to care for each other through, for example, having a pantry of frozen meals available that people can take home from work on days that they work a little later than they anticipated, so that they can bring home dinner and it can become less of a stressful thing on their plate. Or providing like three different ways that somebody can choose from for how they want to be celebrated in their office for maybe a wins or a birthday, so they don't feel the pressure to celebrate the same way as everybody else, but it can be for them. So for people who maybe don't want that public celebration, it gives them the option to choose something else. What is great about community care at work is that you and your team get to decide together how it looks for your specific organization. The Nonprofit Learning Lab talks a little bit about this shift from self-care to community care in their workplace. They say, "We often place the burden of wellness on individuals when well-being is shaped by organizational culture." That is so powerful, and it's also freeing. It means that we don't have to self-care our way out of systems that exhaust us. We can instead build collective practices that change the way our work feels. So Let's take another moment to pause, deep breath, and let's think about one small action, one tiny shift that you could introduce this week, maybe in your work environment, so to help it feel more supportive. Think about something realistic, something human. Take a few moments. Awesome. So, self-care and community care, they definitely go together. Think of self-care and community care as two pillars holding up the same bridge, the bridge of sustainable service. Self-care helps you stay grounded, and community care helps you stay connected. Without the first, we burn out. Without the second, we isolate. So together they protect us and help us do this work in a way that is humane and sustainable. And many indigenous traditions remind us that these two pillars were never meant to be separate. As one BMJ article explains, relational health is achieved by harmonious connections to mind and emotions, body, family, and kin, community, culture, country, and spirituality. Well-being is interconnected, and so are we. As we close, I invite you to take another great, steady breath. Think of one thing that you can offer yourself this week, something small, and one thing that you can offer someone else. Self-care and community care are not destinations. They're ongoing practices, choices that we make to stay present, connected, and whole. Sustainable service is built one choice at a time. Individual choices, collective choices, and choices that remind us that the people doing this work matter just as much as the work itself. Thank you for doing this work. Thank you for caring for yourself, and thank you for caring for each other. And thank you for watching this micro lesson about self-care and community care. Feel free to provide some feedback for us using the QR code on the screen. And feel free to look for more resources, webinars, and other micro lessons at Support Guide. Thank you from Solvera, your partner in Impact.